I'm going to ask you a really important question. How many times have you held back from pursuing your goals and dreams, starting a business, maybe starting an Instagram account, going towards whatever it is that is in your heart to do, simply because of the voice inside of your head? And that voice saying, you're not qualified, somebody's going to figure out that you're a fraud, or you're going to make a fool out of yourself. Yeah, you know what that's called? The imposter syndrome. And what if I told you that the only thing standing between you and the life that you want is that voice inside of your head, and getting rid of it altogether? In today's episode, we're going to talk about just that. Hi, my name is Cicely. I'm the host here of the Inheritance Podcast, and I'm so glad that you're here tuning in. I hope to encourage and inspire you using real life examples of the things that we talk about, and hopefully push you towards taking action, whether that is taking action in your thoughts, taking action in your life, to move towards the life that you are destined to inherit. So what is the imposter syndrome? You may be like me and you're like, I may be struggling with that, but I have no idea what you're talking about. Basically, it is the feeling of self-doubt despite clear evidence of competence. It can look like believing success is due to luck, or maybe you think that other people think that about you, or the fear of being exposed as a fraud or downplaying achievements. It is a psychological pattern where individuals doubt their accomplishments and fear of being exposed as frauds. There have been a lot of studies around this sort of thing, and there was a study done in 2020 that was published in the Frontiers in Psychology, and it found that an estimated 70% of people experience the imposter syndrome at some point in their lives. And that can be around starting something new, or maybe they're like being elevated in a position at work, or they're starting a business, or they have like a good business and it's like getting better and they're elevating. There's just like that thought in the back of their head, am I qualified to be here? Just that constant questioning of yourself, and maybe doubting yourself in terms of, what do other people think about me? Kind of like elevating that voice within you that thinks that other people think things about you. It's really common amongst like high achievers, entrepreneurs, self-starters. It can manifest in any field. So this is not necessarily something that's like just with doctors or just with athletes, or just, it can be anybody. And it affects professionals, students, even creatives. It really has no favorites, I don't think. I think some root causes in terms of this, if you're asking yourself like, yeah, I do think I might have this, like, where does it come from and why? I do think some root causes are going to be like setting unrealistic standards for yourself. A lot of it's going to be based in some perfectionism, this need to always like put your best foot forward in order to prevent the overall perception of you being as somebody who could be unqualified. So like, say, you're wanting to start an Instagram account for doing life coaching like I have, and you don't have any experience doing it, but you have a desire to do it. You've been through a lot. You've got a lot of great life lessons and stories to tell in order to help people. You've got the heart, you've got the passion, but like you start the Instagram and you have like no followers and people don't know what the heck you're doing. You're going to have that voice in your head saying like, what are we doing right now? Like, this is not for us. Like, obviously this is for the professionals, for the people who've been successful in this industry, who've been doing it for years and they're established. Like, what is it about me that's going to make me think that I can actually make it in this sort of thing? And that is what the imposter syndrome voice sounds like. You can also experience it if you're kind of caught in the comparison trap. And this is something that I've talked about on some of my other podcast episodes and my YouTube videos and other avenues. And it's something that I feel like can hit anybody, especially with the rise of social media. You're scrolling and you're seeing all sorts of creators who go viral and they have thousands of followers, and people who are kind of like further along in whatever industry you want to be in. And you kind of compare yourself. You kind of start to question, like, what is it about me that I think could get me to that level? Like they're already there and I'm starting from the bottom, and that sort of nonsense. You measure yourself against others' curated success. And I think that is like a really important term to lean into and recognize that recognize this root cause is that phrase. It's a curated success. Like, yeah, they may have followers, and yeah, they may go viral, and yeah, they may have comments, but like your perception of their success and your inadequacy is literally just your perception, because you're comparing yourself. I think another big one in terms of where this comes from is the need for external validation. And I did talk about this a little bit in my previous episode when I talked about my go with an identity crisis that I recently had and kind of like where those things come from. I do think that a lot of the things in life that we face when we have to push through something, like a mental blockage that is keeping us from like being elevated in life or pursuing our goals and dreams, a lot of it is a mental game. And so this need for like external validation and like where that comes from, kind of like relying on others' opinions of our self-worth. And in order, we need them to kind of encourage us and say like, yeah, you're qualified, you're good, go for it. There is something like ingrained in us as like a human species. I don't know if it's our culture or our parents or just like, I don't know exactly where it comes from, but we have to break out of that mold in order to fully like confront the imposter syndrome and stop relying on everybody to give us the thumbs up for stuff. If you really lean into it and you really listen to that voice, that imposter syndrome voice of like, hey, you're not qualified. Hey, I don't know what you think you're doing. You're starting something new. What are people going to think? Like, you look like a loser. Nobody's following you. You should just give up. That's kind of what it sounds like. If you've never dealt with this, like, kudos to you. I do think that there are a lot of people who deal with this that maybe they have like a certain personality type, people who tend to be a little bit more of like a people pleaser, but they're still like a driven entrepreneurial, go-getter type person where they have goals and they have dreams and they want to be successful, but at the same time, they struggle with like the perception of other people. I know for me, I'm a firstborn, so like that was an obstacle that I had to deal with because growing up, always like serving my siblings kind of like bled into, that's how I treated my friends. And that's how I kind of just like approached life, was like, how can I help you? How can I serve you? And that, laid the foundation for becoming a people pleaser, which laid the foundation for kind of being paralyzed by like the thoughts of other people, whether they were actually thinking them or not. And that's kind of like the caveat of this entire episode. And this entire subject is like the imposter syndrome isn't what people really think. Like that voice in your head is not what people really think. We don't know what people are thinking unless they tell us. The imposter syndrome really focuses on, honestly, like our projection of others' thoughts onto them, what we think they're thinking about us. And so all of it is within ourselves that we need to kind of unpack and decide, is this really what I want to believe about myself? Because in the imposter syndrome, we're thinking, oh, they think this about me. But in reality, that's what we think about ourselves, or that's what we're allowing ourselves to think about ourselves. Whether we believe that it's true or not, we're just kind of letting our thoughts get crowded with all of these lies and we're not confronting them. We're just allowing them to run rampant and then build foundations of truth on lies, but build foundations of like our personalities and the way we approach business and the way we approach our goals and our dreams based off of our own broken self-perceptions because we need the validation of other people, or we're trapped in comparison, or we are paralyzed by perfectionism. Until you understand what the imposter syndrome is and where it comes from, you're not really going to be able to overcome it. You're just going to kind of be literally like chained to whatever you think other people think about you, and you're not going to pursue those goals or go lose all of that weight, in the gym, or start a business, or invent that thing, or write the song, or whatever it is, because you are going to listen to the imposter syndrome voice, which honestly is just like your own voice because you don't understand your own value and your self-worth. If we are going to confront it, there are a couple things that I think we should kind of like talk to ourselves about and like remind ourselves of. The first one that I would say you really need to focus on when you hear, like, let's say you want to start that business. Or let's say you're going to, become an instructor or a personal trainer and you don't have like the experience to prove it. You don't have the certification or, that external validation we were talking about. Or you don't have like the cheers of everybody following you on Instagram and their praise, like all of the other people that you see who are in that industry who are successful. Let's say you are starting fresh. You don't have whatever it is that everybody else that you see that is successful, what they have. You're a newbie, but you're trying to do it anyway. And that voice kind of comes up and saying like, who do you think you are? That you can be successful in this, that you can do this thing, that you can become like the next Mel Robbins or the next Tony Robbins or the next whoever, you know, who do you think you are that you can become the next, you fill in the blank. The thing that you need to immediately address that voice with is the fact that, number one, you're not trying to be anybody other than you. So like the standard that you've set for yourself, or this broken like self-perception that is coming up that is saying, who do you think you are that you think you can be like them, or you can be them, or whatever. Number one, you're not trying to be them. You're trying to be you. You're pursuing like the same industry, but it's with your own twist on it. That kind of like alleviates this expectation that you have on yourself in order to like measure up to a standard of being somebody that you are not. You're not trying to be anybody. This is your self-expression. This is your thing. And that's what I love about, like, if you haven't listened to the Mel Robbins podcast, or if you haven't read the Let Them Theory book by Mel Robbins, I highly encourage you to do it, because a lot of it kind of addresses this imposter syndrome type stuff that a lot of people online deal with, and a lot of people just in general deal with. That is something that she talks about in this whole, like, your social media is for you. Your art is for you. Your hobbies are for you. Your goals, your dreams, your passions, it's for you. It's an expression of who you are. And so this need, in order for like other people to be like, oh, this is great, I love it. Or, oh, this reminds me of like this other artist or this other singer or this, or like you're the new version of whatever. It's just a load of BS. Like, I really can't stress that enough. So whatever dream and goal that you have like an itch towards, that you really want to do, there's obviously going to be other people who have done that before. So you just need to understand that you are not trying to be like them. You're not trying to be them at all. There's no need for you to do that. Maybe the reason why you're feeling this bend towards this industry is because maybe there's something that you have to contribute to said industry that they don't have. So your approach to it's not going to look the same. The reason why you start your Instagram with 0 followers is not going to be the reason why they started their Instagram with like 10,000, or however they got to their success. It's not going to look like you. And so you can immediately alleviate this like burden that you put on yourself, or like, I've done it to myself. This burden that I put on myself in order to start an Instagram with 0 followers, and then with like within a week have 10K in order to like validate the fact that I'm supposed to be here or whatever. It's just BS. Like, honestly, it's not going to look like what other people's accomplishments look like, because I'm me and I'm not them. So start with that. The whole, who do you think you are? Well, I'm me. So you can get out of here, imposter syndrome voice. Every single person that has achieved anything in life, they started from 0. They started from the bottom. Nobody just sets their mind to like achieve all these goals and like make all this money and like have all of these followers and blah, 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 whatever you want to say. Like invent the next medicine and be successful in their industry. Nobody starts out like at the top. No one. Because that's just not how life works. You don't become successful overnight. No one is immune from the fact that we all have to start. That is like the big thing. Everyone is at the starting line when they decide, I'm going to do this. And over time, you get better. You gain the credibility. You refine your stuff. People start to follow you. They give you the applause. Not that it mattered in the beginning, because that wasn't the reason why you did it anyway. In my own life, you know, I've started a marketing company from nothing. If you listen to the previous podcast episode, I talked about how I had been about 5 years in the photography wedding industry, and kind of made a couple decisions in my life to move across the country and kind of start over with my husband. And inevitably what ended up happening was that my business kind of like crumbled on top of a lot of other like big life changes that I was dealing with. I felt like because my business fell apart, that like all of my entity, all of my credibility, all of everything that I had spent so many years building also fell apart. And so for a while, you know, I dealt with like this big crisis, and I was all very emotional about it. I cried nonstop. You know, if you want to listen to the whole story, you can just go to the previous episode. The reason why I'm telling you this is because I had to make a decision at some point, you know, when I was ready to make that decision. I was ready to like get out of the muck of all of my emotions. What am I going to do next? And unfortunately, with the loss of my business, that meant that I was going to be starting over. I was going to be starting something new. And after already spending 5 years building something and getting comfortable with it and feeling like, I finally understand what it is I'm doing and I finally feel comfortable with this, I've got the momentum of it going. It was an incredibly daunting idea to fathom starting over, but it was also kind of like, I'm not sure that I'm qualified to do this. I'm not sure, it's such a silly idea. I had already built a business from the ground up and I'm over here thinking, I don't think I can do it again. Yes, you can. I've proven that I already can. But I started a marketing company. I have many, many years of experience in marketing, both from marketing my own business and for other companies that I've done work for. But I had never started a marketing company where I was the consultant and I was doing all of this other work for other companies from an entrepreneurial standpoint. And so I just decided, my photography business isn't something that I'm going to keep pursuing. I set my mind towards a new goal and I started taking steps in it, regardless of the fact that I didn't have, my degree hanging on the wall. Like I never finished school. I don't have any external validation of saying like, you're good to go to start your company. I just made a decision. And I kid you not, as soon as I did, and I start working on my little website and I start developing, a business plan, that voice creeped up. Who do you think you are? What do you think you're doing? There's already other marketing agencies around here. Like, what makes you better than them? They've been in the industry for years. It was just a bunch of nonsense going on in my head. And I had to decide, am I going to continue to push on through all of these voices in my head saying that somehow I'm not qualified? Or am I going to just kind of like agree with it and be like, oh, yeah, you're right. I guess I'll just do something else and inevitably like never take action towards anything. No, I had already dealt with the identity crisis. I had already dealt, it's amazing when you have like both of these things happen in the same instance and like the same go, dealing with the lies that you believe about yourself and confronting them and establishing truth and laying like a good foundation. And then the imposter syndrome comes in and you kind of already have like the groundwork of that going and you're not necessarily as crippled by that voice. But I know a lot of people don't have those experiences like in tandem or like right after the other. So I'm going to tell you kind of what happened to me. I start building my business and I decide I'm going to do this podcast. I decide I'm going to start an Instagram and I literally have started from nothing. Like as we speak, my website is not live yet. Maybe, by next week it'll be live. So maybe by the time you're listening to this podcast and you find it, this will be old news. I don't even have a website live. And I have this podcast. I have a total of 11 followers on Instagram right now. And I am actively pursuing clients, like potential clients that I can start working for. And because I don't have all of these like things to show people like, oh yeah, I have 2,000 followers on Instagram. I've been doing this for 5 years. I have my communications degree hanging on the wall. I have my website. It's all beautiful. I don't have all of these things in order to prove to people that I'm qualified to do this. I just know that I am. And for a lot of people, that would be kind of scary. Some people might think it's laughable, but you know what? They're not me. I'm not them. I'm not doing it the way that everybody else is doing it. I'm doing it the way that I believe I need to do it. And because I'm starting over, and I've already started a business from the ground up once before, I just understand these things take time. And not everything has to happen in a certain order in order for me to become successful. And I'm not necessarily saying that there's a right way to do business or a wrong way to do business or, whatever it is you want to do. If you want to write a song and, break all the rules, quote unquote, of music, or if you want to make films and break all of the rules, quote unquote, of like photography and film, you can do that. You can. Definitely not encouraging anybody to go and break like laws. Okay. So take that with a grain of salt. But there are certain things that like the way that people approach starting fresh and starting over that like technically break the rules of society. And it's like, it works. It works for them. And I love it. Take off this like expectation of yourself to fit into the mold based off of maybe your lack of self-awareness and your lack of understanding of your own self-worth, or the need to like control what other people think about you because you're actually just projecting your own broken thoughts onto them and you think that that's what they think. And so in essence, you're trying to control what they might be thinking about you. You can't. You cannot do it. Maybe if I only have 10 followers on Instagram, are my potential clients going to think that I'm a fraud and not hire me? Well, maybe. If they do think that, they're not going to hire me. So be it. I'll go and find somebody else. And maybe that client won't think that. Ultimately, I can't let what other people think about me hold me back, because you know what? The only people who suffer from me holding myself back is not them. It's me. And that's honestly my message to you. Those are some ways that you can kind of like reframe your thinking and approach those voices of that negativity and that, invalidation, that need for other people to kind of affirm you so you have the courage to do it. Everything has to come from within. If you want to be successful, if you want your dreams and goals to come true, you are the only person who can pursue it. And when the imposter syndrome voice rises up, you have to confront it with reality. You can't be nice to that voice. Be like, bro, everybody start from the bottom. Who are you to say otherwise? I am also included in everybody. I also have to start from the bottom. If I want to be successful, which I do, I have to start with my 10 followers, my maybe, 2 views for my videos on YouTube, or what. Everybody starts there. It's just a matter of like consistently confronting that voice and telling it the truth. I am not other people. So who do I think I am? I'm me. I cannot expect for everything to happen overnight. I need to be consistent. There's no need for me to compare to other people because everybody started from the bottom. They just got success from being consistent. So I'm just going to make that same decision and everything else. You need to confront those thoughts, and then we need to reframe them. When you have these thoughts, you need to take action. And I would say, speaking out loud, using like the power of your actual voice against those thoughts is going to be something I would encourage you to do. I would also say, I talked about this in my last podcast. If you're not journaling, you need to stop what you're doing, go to Walmart, go to Target, wherever you get your journals, buy one, get a pen, and start journaling daily. You can almost kind of like do a brain dump of everything that you're thinking and all that clutter of negativity. You can pour it out on the page and then in real time respond to it. Be confronted with the actual things you're letting run wild in your mind and be like, what the hell? I don't think that about myself, and immediately write in response to it, and then track your progress as you make a habit of constantly confronting those thoughts. So I would say like journaling and then speaking out loud. You could even do something that I do. I went and bought some Expo markers from Amazon, and you can write on your mirror in your bathroom, like truth. So every morning that you wake up, every time you go to the bathroom, every time that you're there, you are actively seeing the truth. So maybe you're having like those negative thoughts, and then you immediately get confronted with it in like a regular place. Like it doesn't necessarily have to just be like expo markers in the bathroom, but like sticky notes, put them where you can see them. You may be asking yourself, like, what do I write on these things? What do I say to myself? So let's say, you're going about your day, you're dreaming of your goals and your futures, and then all of a sudden you get a thought, I'm not good enough. Or like you post that video and it flops. We're going to use as a loose term because look, I have 10 followers on my Instagram account. I'm lucky if I get 1 like. Is that a reflection on me? No. It's just the reality of where I'm at, and I'm not offended by it. So we'll use the flop word loosely. I'm going to be an artist, and I'm going to start posting my stuff on Instagram. So you post it and you do like this long-winded reel of like your process of how you created this masterpiece. And, you're just trusting the process. You're taking action. You put it out there and it flops. And then all of a sudden, you close out the app, you open it back up and you see that it got like no views, no engagement, no new followers. And then you immediately have that thought, I'm not good enough. Nobody likes me, whatever. You're going to immediately respond, if you can, out loud or write it with, I am learning and I'm growing. A big thing for you is going to, number 1, have freaking grace for yourself. Like a lot of this, like I said, is all internal. We may think that other people don't think that we're good enough, and it's honestly just the fact that they haven't found us yet. It's not a reflection on you. But if you keep thinking that, guess what you're going to do? You're going to stop creating. You're going to stop posting, or you're just not going to make the account at all. Or you're going to be like me and stop filming these dang podcasts talking to, like, honestly, I don't know who's listening right now, but I know eventually the people are going to find me because I know that the stuff I'm talking about is for them. I'm just trusting the process. Have some freaking grace for yourself. If it flops, it's just because they haven't found you yet. You're learning, you're growing, you're practicing the tools that you need in order to become the person that you're wanting to be. You want to be successful and you want to be discovered and you want to have followers, but the only way to do that is to actually post, to actually have an Instagram. You've got to understand, things just don't happen overnight. They don't just come to people who wish it. It's fine. Get a hold of that for you. Be as proactive as you possibly can with confronting those ways of thinking. As soon as you have that thought, oh, I'm not good enough, nobody likes me. No, I'm learning and growing. I'm putting into practice the things that I need in order to be the person I want to be. This is for me. This is for me. Say it to yourself. This is for me. My goals and my dreams are for me. Everybody else just benefits from it. When they discover me, when they see my art, when they hear my music, when they get to use my invention, they benefit from my self-expression, from the fact that I just stayed the course and I believed in it. Confront that thought out loud, on paper, on the bathroom mirror, on a sticky note, whatever. Focus on your progress, not the perfection. I really do feel like even a lot of successful people deal with this because a lot of people are always looking for like the next thing. A lot of people are set on growth. And every time we grow, we have to confront this stupid way of thinking that somehow we're not capable, we're not whatever. Everybody thinks it. So understand you need to just keep your eyes on progress, not perfection. If you want to get to 1 million followers on Instagram for your music, you have to tolerate having only 100. And stewarding them and understand, like, it's just progress. You'll get there. Celebrate the small wins. I kid you not. With my 10 followers on my Instagram account, I posted like 2 posts on Instagram and I got like 2 new follows in one day. And I was like, oh my gosh, people saw my stuff. That is a huge deal. Is it 100 followers overnight? No. But you know what? I didn't expect that. Because I remember this is for me. This process is for me. This new adventure is my dream. It's not anybody else's dream. I can't expect them to care about something if I don't care about it a shit ton more. And honestly, like just celebrating the small wins is going to almost like revalidate the reason why you're doing what you're doing and kind of keep the fire of the passion going, like stoking that fire. And remembering this is for you. And the fact that I got 2 followers on an Instagram account that's like, it has 2 posts, nothing else, no highlight stories, like barely a bio. I'm not trying to harp on myself or anything, but I'm just trying to be as real as I possibly can with you. Like I was so honored that people valued that, but I took the time and effort and I put myself out there. In the event that people laughed at me and they thought that it was stupid or absurd, I had to get past the fact that I don't care what other people think because this is for me. And you need to do the same. And so when you can do that, you'll celebrate the small wins. And I immediately went to my story and thanked people for the follows and was like, oh my gosh, this little community that we have, this is so fun. So keep your eyes on the progress. Take them off of the expectation of other people. Keep your eyes on you. You and you alone. Who cares what other people think? This is about you. This is for you. Other people just benefit. When you can keep reminding yourself that all of this stuff, all of your hopes and dreams, it is for you. Other people just benefit from it, whether they're entertained by it, they're spoken to by it, with your art, or you help them in some way. It's for you because you're the one that has to believe in it first. In case some people actually do, those mean people who actually do think that you look stupid, you have to be the first to believe in it and then other people will believe in it too. let's talk about some action steps, which I know I'm kind of like all over the place, but I've already kind of talked about some action steps that I've taken for myself. But in order for you to actually like get past the voice and confront the lies and, write stuff down, all that's great. We now actually need to move. We need to move our bodies. We need to move our minds. We need to get out there. So we're going to build our confidence through action. So starting small is key because, a lot of the reasons why we allow ourselves to be held back from actually taking action at all is because we are so focused on the end result. We want the 100K followers. We want the thousands of views on TikTok or Reels, and we want the thousands of comments, and we want the money piling in from being monetized on YouTube and blah, 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 blah. That's great. I definitely think having, a vision for where you want to go is great, but it's not what gets you there. If only we could just wish and hope and cross our fingers and we would be where we want to be. But that's not how it works. Anything worth having requires a ton of effort, discipline, and consistency. And you know what? That's why a lot of people's dreams don't come true. And that's why a lot of those same people are bitter in life. I want you to hear what I have to say and know that it's because I love you and I kind of want to be like your big sister and just help you understand. There's nothing wrong with your dreams and your goals and hoping and wishing that they come true, but it's just like, that's not enough. And a lot of people think that it is. It requires you taking a step in a small, realistic way over and over and over and over again. And that is not, the popular thing. That's not the thing that's going to go viral, and it's fine. I think a lot of people want to hype up, overnight success, but there's no such thing as overnight success. Anybody and everybody who becomes overnightly successful are people who continue to show up every single day in small, realistic ways until eventually the right people just found them. It is really, really good news for you because that means that you don't have to basically set yourself up against this impossible goal and never see your dreams come true. It actually is easy. It just requires the discipline. So you just need to take the small, manageable steps towards your goals. So what does that mean? Well, it's like I said, I start my Instagram with 10 followers and I make a post, once every couple of days as best as I can. I'm working part-time at a coffee shop and I still have other projects related to my other business that I need to finish up. So, I'm not going to set unrealistic goals for myself to post every single day and be as consistent as possible and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be as realistic as I possibly can and not have expectations to become overnightly successful. And then just taking the steps, starting the Instagram or the TikTok and posting the videos. Like, if you want to go viral, you probably have to have some content beforehand that sets you up, sets the algorithm up or whatever. Same thing with anything. You need to start building the website. My website's not live, but I've been working on it as often as I can. I show up almost every single day and I make tweaks here and there to update the photos and to make the language work. I still have a lot that I need to do. I understand it's not going to be live like tomorrow. I don't have the budget to pay somebody to do it for me. So I'm doing it myself and I'm taking the small steps to build it. Same thing with anything. You need to start the Instagram with 0 followers and make your first reel post and introduce yourself. Do it. You'll probably get some follows from it, but you're only going to get some follows if you make the post. I hope I'm making sense. When you do, there's going to be some things that you need to remember, and that is that failure is going to be a part of it. So the flopping video, it's okay. It's not a failure. It's not a setback in the way that you might think at first. Everything is a learning and growing opportunity. I had a video that I posted on TikTok about, some marketing tips, and I didn't expect anything from it, but it got almost 1,500 views. And then the very next post I made, maybe 350 views. Instead of getting offended by it, I looked at the first video and the second video and I noticed some differences and some things that maybe were more engaging for viewers. And then I made another video and implemented those same things. And I got more views that were like the first video. And so it's just, everything's a learning opportunity. Just don't get offended by stuff. And I know that that's kind of like hard for some people because, but the thing is, you can't really get upset by this stuff And a lot of that is going to be rooted in remembering to love yourself and have grace for yourself. If you can do that, then the naysayers or the lack of engagement or the stupid comments that are probably bots, because let's be for real, the more you can embrace failure, quote unquote, I'm using that term loosely as well, and the more that you can grow past it and learn from it. You can use it as leverage. And that is where growth comes from. Let's say you have that video that flops, or like you put yourself out there and you're trying to make a sale in your new business and the potential client says no. It's not because you're terrible. It's not because you're ugly, or it's not because of something ridiculous. It's just that's part of growth. It's no's, it's failing forwards, it's setbacks, whatever. We learn from it and we remember that we deep within are so valuable beyond all of those things. So we practice our self-affirmations, we continue to journal, we write on the mirror in our sticky notes, we remind ourselves of our strengths and why we're doing this, and remember that this is for us. It's for our goals and our dreams that we know are there for a reason, and we believe in them regardless of what everybody else thinks. And as you continue to do this, I promise you're going to see some exponential growth within you. And eventually your external circumstances will mirror your internal circumstances. I have heard so many billionaires talk about this. People who are so successful in sales that they make lots of money. I've heard them talk about two things. One of which is that if you want to be successful, you first have to learn to love yourself. And I just thought that was so odd. Their number one piece of advice for somebody in order to be successful is to love yourself. But then I started to think about it, and it made a lot of sense in terms of what we're talking about. The less that you love yourself, the less you believe in yourself, and the less likely you're going to take risks and you're going to put yourself out there where rejection can happen, where you can be laughable to someone, where you can, whatever it is that may happen, because you're more concerned about what other people think about you and how other people perceive you rather than how you know yourself to be and how you love yourself enough and you understand that self-worth. And that other piece of advice that I heard from them was that success only comes from those who believe in themselves first. It all comes from small things. I just recently saw this video that reminded me of where Amazon's start was. They sold books and it was in a garage. I'm sure Jeff Bezos had some friends that were like, you're going to sell books online? What the heck? And now I'm sure they're like really upset that they ever thought that, because he's like one of the richest people in the whole freaking world. But you know what? He took small steps and had a vision for something where nobody else had a vision because he believed in himself. It all goes back to who is the person in here in your heart? Who is the person within you? And are you really taking care of them? Are you really believing in them? Are you reassuring them? Are you confronting those lies? Are you being proactive about what you allow and what you permit in your mind? We've kind of already talked about this, but overcoming the fear of others' opinions is going to be a big thing. And I've given you some like really helpful things that I think in order to help me just push through. As somebody who used to be literally crippled by the opinion of other people and like people pleasing, I would almost like anticipate their opinions because what was happening was I was taking like my own opinion of myself and projecting it onto other people and saying that that's what they were thinking about me. And that was my way of like anticipating their thoughts so that I could almost prevent like screwing up. Honestly, all that was doing was shackling myself. Like I was literally holding myself back from everything. And over time, as I have learned to heal my heart and heal my perception of myself, I have started to let go more and more and more of what people think of me. Now to the point where I'm sure I offend people. I'm sure I say the wrong things and do the wrong things all the time. It's just like, that's not my responsibility. What people think of me, what am I supposed to do about that? I can do my very best to, treat people with kindness and respect. I'm not saying like, go be an asshole. I'm not saying that. I mean, within the confines of like pursuing your goals and your dreams. I can do my very best to handle people with love and respect and kindness. At the end of the day, if they choose to be offended with me because of something that they think about what I'm doing, even though it's what I want to do for my life and it's the goals and the dreams that I have, what am I supposed to do with that? Absolutely freaking nothing. I didn't get to this place where I'm just like, yeah, whatever, like, let them. I didn't get from being crippled by pleasing people and anticipating what they were thinking about me and literally bending over backwards for something that they may or may not actually want or be thinking. I didn't get from there in order to where I am now, where it's like, who cares what they think about if I only have 10 followers on Instagram? Who cares if they reject my proposal being their marketing consultant because I only have that many followers? Who freaking cares? Eventually, if I just keep going, I'm going to get a yes. I didn't get from there to here by doing nothing. I had to work on the overcoming process. And honestly, it all roots back in taking care of myself and learning who I am and remembering that I'm doing this for me. And honestly, a lot of therapy. What's going to keep you going is overcoming this completely. So I was literally on TikTok this morning and I was just scrolling and I was kind of like doing some thinking about like filming this podcast today. And no joke, I saw Ilona Maher, you know, the rugby player from the Olympics who was on the Dancing with the Stars. She was asked about this question from an interviewer, and the interviewer was like, how do you overcome the imposter syndrome? And immediately, you know what she said? I don't have that.
How do you overcome imposter syndrome?
I don't have that.
Really?
No, I don't know what that... It's like where you don't feel like you deserve it.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I have it.
Okay, how is that possible? I feel like imposter syndrome ruins my life sometimes.
I feel like I deserve what I've gotten. I think that I've worked very hard, even in the rugby space. Like, I posted many videos a day. I put myself out there. I put my whole personality, my whole everything out there.
So basically you're just saying, don't even acknowledge it.
I just don't think I have that.
I love it.
Which I think is also like people are told sometimes to feel like they have that imposter syndrome. But it's okay to be proud of what you've done. It's okay to believe you deserve something because you've put in the work for it.
I admire her so much. That was her immediate response. Like, I don't have that. I don't struggle with that. I was like, dang, I am working towards getting there because I still have like those voices all of the time that kind of like come up, and I'm working on confronting them and overcoming them. And, you know, a lot of the content that I have been listening to and the books I've been reading have been super helpful with that. But the fact that she was like, yeah, no, I don't even deal with it. I just was like, gosh, I respect that so much. Her response of being like, I've worked hard for where I've gotten and I have dealt with so much. Like, I don't feel like I owe anybody an explanation. I don't feel like I need to basically lean on other people's opinion of me in order to validate what I've done. Like, I know what I've done. Like, all of that is all rooted in I know who I am. Overcoming the fear of others' opinions and what they think about you and like the potential judgment or whatever. You just need to get to this place where you remember like you're working really hard. You are doing something that like, I don't know, maybe 7 out of 10, if not more people, they won't do. They're not willing to confront it. So many people live their entire life, never confront this. They never live their life to its full potential simply because they're paralyzed on what other people think or what they think other people think. Because something within them is broken that they're not willing to confront. And if you can remember all the things that you've gone through that have brought you to this point where you're pushing through societal norms and you're believing in yourself when nobody else is or whatever, like that's freaking amazing. And just like root yourself in that, you will definitely see yourself like caring less and less about what other people think. I feel like she's put into practice these two things, and it's separating constructive feedback from like unhelpful criticism. So you're going to have naysayers, okay? You're going to have people that are up in your comment section. My sister owns a magazine. It's called Trends of the Times. And she's built it from 0 to like 15,000 followers on Instagram. And she didn't get there overnight. And it's so amazing because she's believed in something when nobody else has. And I kid you not, all the time, she has mean people up in her comments being naysayers. And so she's been able to kind of like prune all of that and be like, okay, this is not helpful. This is not constructive criticism. This is not helpful feedback that's helping me grow. It's just people who are not being helpful because they're choosing to not be helpful. If you can do that for yourself and allow the right voices in, surround yourself with people who are going to actually motivate you to grow past things and give you like wisdom, then all of the unnecessary naysayers will be something you can just immediately be like, oh, water off a duck's back. Find somebody who has confronted this and who is talking about this directly, maybe in your industry, because I guarantee you Every single person who has gotten where you want to be had to confront this. Prune the things that you're listening to and prune the things that you're putting in, making sure that it is motivating, making sure that it's relevant to what you want to overcome so that you can continue to like elevate past these things. Sometimes we need like external motivation, not validation. Sometimes we need to like fuel our bodies with the things that will give us kind of the tools that we need in order to keep pushing. To sustain this long term, like I said, reflection is going to be something that you want to stay on top of. So really stay on top of your journals. Look back on what it is that you've overcome. So when you first were confronting this, what was the language that you were using now all the way up until wherever it is that you are when you're reflecting? Look at how like you've progressed. Look at how you talk about yourself. Your overall disposition towards yourself, you're going to be able to read on those pages and celebrate that progress to continue the motivation to keep going and do this long term. You know, when like obstacles arise, seeing all of this like progress when you reflect is going to basically like build that resilience within you and that strength to like keep going no matter what happens, because you're basically building the belief that you can because you're seeing it on paper. Back then, when I first started, was like so freaking hard. And look at how far I've come. So then that means that the next thing that feels like it's gonna take me out, I actually can overcome it as well. Because if I overcame this and I thought it was gonna take me out, I can overcome the next thing. And that's what building the resilience is. That's how you kind of maintain this long-term like habit to grow and become and push out the voice of the imposter syndrome, essentially. And then keep learning. Like stay curious and open to growth in all areas of your life. You would be surprised at how many conversations I've had with people where I've left like impacted and motivated to keep going. So depending on, you know, wherever it is in your life, if you're kind of like having a down moment in that day, like stay open. There may be something coming your way and continue to pursue those voices, both like in the content that you're consuming. Like really, I would encourage you to prune it. Be very intentional about what you let in, like what you're chasing. Always be pursuing growth. And the last thing that I think we can all learn from Alana in this is creating the life that you want. And a lot of it is just your mentality, but you're taking the action to align yourself with the person that you want to be, making sure that the language that you know you use when you talk about yourself, when somebody asks you, this is what I love so much about her. When they asked her about the imposter syndrome, she's like, I don't have it. Like, I don't struggle with this. And she was 100% honest. She didn't feel the need to conform to the mold that the interviewer was putting her in order to get clicks. She has spent all of this time to become the person that she knew she always was. And all of her accolades and accomplishments and awards and all of that stuff is just a reflection of who she knew herself to be, probably when she got started. Because I'm 99.9% sure she didn't just wake up one day and become an Olympic medalist. And so now that she's being asked about the imposter syndrome, she's confronted that lie, whether or not she ever had it. And she's like being completely honest because she has aligned her entire life with the values of who she has always been and who she's believed in herself to be. Her life and her values are one and the same. So continue to make decisions in your language and in your actions that align with the life you're dreaming of, and be very particular about how you talk about it, about how you talk about yourself. Anytime I'm like dreaming about like the next thing for me, I am always either prefacing it or like ending with gratitude for where I am and how I got here, because I didn't just get where I am by, you know, crossing my fingers and hoping and all that stuff. Like I have worked hard for this too, even though where I am is kind of like an in-between. I went through a lot of stuff that could have taken me out had I let it. And so being grateful for, you know, overcoming all of this stuff and not taking for granted what I had in the process of that, because I still have my marriage, I still have my family, I still have my friends, I still have my dog, I have connections to other people where I've been able to like feel so overjoyed and overwhelmed with love during this time. Like not taking any of that for granted and staying grateful for it has made this part of the process where I'm like pursuing the next thing so much sweeter and so worth it in the end. And then just share your journey in order to like continue to create the life that you want and sustain this, it's so important for you to talk about it. There are a lot of people who are going to relate to what it is that you've gone through and what you have to say. And so step out. It's always taking actions that align with the person you want to be. And so if you want to be, somebody who is a life coach, part of life coaching is sharing your story. And that's honestly why I'm here. That's why I've started this podcast. That's why I've started the company that I've started. That's why my personal Instagram, if you've been following me on my personal Instagram, my bio has changed. I've changed my profile picture. Like, I understand that I need to take small steps in order to fully become the person that I want to be. And it requires action on my part, whether people think that it's legit or not, whether they think it's laughable or not, whether they think that my story is valid to them or not. Like, it's not up to them to determine my future. It's up to me. And in the end, I have to make the choice of what voice am I going to listen to? The voice of truth, of who I know myself to be, or the voice of the imposter? Honestly, only one of them is going to get me where I want to go. Anything I want to do, other people cannot do it for me. So I'm the one that has to pursue it. I'm the one that loses out if I don't take action. So in the end, who cares if my entire Instagram bio changes, and who cares if I have credibility to do it or not? The right people who are looking for that will find it if I just keep showing up. And the same goes for you. Whatever that looks like for you, you can totally do this. You just have to let go of the expectation for other people to tell you who you are and take hold of who you know yourself to be and let that be the loudest thing. I've seen so many people who become these successful entrepreneurs and music artists and all that stuff who have all confronted it. So if they can do it, so can we. I hope that this episode was super encouraging, validating, because 7 out of 10 people apparently deal with this. And I hope that it was motivating enough for you to start wherever you start and whatever that looks like. Just remember, everybody starts from the bottom. And quite honestly, if you're starting, that's better than the majority of people. Hopes and wishes don't get us where we want to go. We have to take action. We have to believe in ourselves. And just remember, honestly, the majority of us don't know what we're doing. It's just what separates us that get anywhere from the rest is the fact that we just took action. Believe in yourself. If you are listening on podcast, please leave me a review and leave me a comment, share with a friend. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, like and comment on anything else that you want me to talk about, and share with a friend. Thanks so much for being a part of this inheritance community. I can't wait to see you walk into the life that you've always dreamed of and inherit what you are destined to inherit. I'll see you next time.